Yeah, they missed the singing part too. Good morning, good morning. So, we're going to talk about ethical dilemmas. And we see them every day in the news. We see them as we're driving right down the streets that are outside. So, I've selected one or two that we can actually delve into. This is a real life story, and I want to share the background scenario, and then I am going to share one of the personnel that was working on the case, and we'll all sit here and make a decision as to what should have been done. And you there on Zoom, I hope you will join us too in helping us make the decision. So this involves Walmart. Back in the mid 2000s, Walmart planned to build a new supercenter in Forest Grove, Oregon. However, the site was the home to a beloved grove of old oak trees, which residents considered a really essential part of their community and the natural landscape. The plan was to clear out about 20 acres of land, which included these iconic trees, and to make space for this new retail superstore. Well, the community became divided over the issue, with many of the residents and environmental activists saying that they wanted to preserve their special trees. While the other side, including Walmart, was saying we need the development, which was necessary for economic growth, we need job creation, and we need for the town to really progress and go to the next level. Now, Walmart, on its part, acknowledged that there's environmental concerns, but insisted that this particular site, this grove of trees, was the best place for it to be. So, in the words of Mr. Walmart, or we'll call him John, this is what John had to say. Well, it's 2005, and I was working for Walmart and overseeing the store's new development of Forest Grove in Oregon. You know, the project was meant to be a superstore. We really wanted to come and help the community, offering convenience, offering jobs, and economic growth. Everything seemed in alignment. We had the prime location, a strategic development plan, community support for the promise of new jobs. But, you know, we here at Walmart, we hit a hurdle. People were protesting in front of our office about their cherished grove of old oak trees. Well, we continued to move forward with planning and environmental assessment. We realized that in order to build the store, we'd have to clear a significant portion of the trees. And we know they weren't just regular trees, they were a part of the community's identity. Local residents, environmentalists, everybody was arguing with us, but we here at Walmart, we knew this was the place to be. So the dilemma that we at Walmart have is like, well, what do you do? You know, if you were in my position, what would you do? Would you proceed with the store development as planned? That is, clearing the trees and facing potential backlash? Or would you halt the project to protect the environment and the community's heritage? How would you balance the need for economic growth in this particular community with the need for environmental conservation? So you here at the Ethical Humanist Society this morning, we need you to decide. I'm going to give you a few moments to speak amongst yourselves, and then we're going to come back, and I want to be able to hear. And you can speak with one another. And on Zoom, you guys can speak amongst yourselves there. What would you do? Should Walmart get rid of the trees for economic development? Or what should be done? Okay, you've got a couple of moments. Go ahead.
You guys can unmute. You can unmute yourselves.
Okay.
All right.
That's two.
So my natural instinct would be to
Oh, the
see if there's
conversation's bubbling here.
a way to have your cake and eat it too, to see if there's a way of building the Walmart around the trees or something like that. But maybe that's
Okay,
not
so
possible.
everybody on Zoom, you can speak amongst yourselves. Should Walmart continue to build that store, or should we save the trees? What should be done?
Right, Wayne, I agree with you, but what's the resolution? How do you make it happen?
Yeah, right. It needs some more specifics, obviously, so that I suppose we're not expected to try to figure out the compromise. So,
I think maybe for every tree that they have to take down, one has to be planted elsewhere. Build a store, take down the trees, and build trees for the future elsewhere.
but one-on-one is not enough, Judy. You're not a very good lawyer for these community.
Oh, now you're not, you have to give room for all opinions, right? This is brainstorming.
Yeah, you want 10 trees for everyone.
Okay, I like that. I'll take that, Wayne. Fred?
Yeah, I would say that because it's Walmart, you see, if it was another corporation, I might think differently, but particularly because it's Walmart and what it's done to so many communities across the country, trees or no trees, and its opposition to unionization, I would say thumbs down just because it was Walmart. Now, if it was some kind of cooperative enterprise that was seeking to expand opportunity, I would say to myself, let's find a grounds for compromise. So I guess I'm being pragmatic and prejudiced against Walmart.
I think we all are.
But on the other hand, a Walmart provides economic opportunity for people for jobs and stuff. So I mean, it's real easy to stand above all of this but on the ground, that's employment for people.
Not
It is.
only that, it's a service for poorer people because the prices are very, very favorable. And their products are important to people who don't have
Are you guys still talking
access
to each other online?
other
I don't even see you
other
talking. Are you sure?
The reality is
Looking at us.
that when Walmart comes in, in thousands of communities around the U.S. I know from my hometown of Pocomoke City, Walmart comes in and the local hardware store closes, the local pharmacy
That's true.
closes, the local little supermarkets close. They all get put out of business.
It's true.
The downtown in my hometown pretty much died after Walmart built a giant store on the bypass around town.
Wow.
Yeah, that is very true.
Someone says very true. Okay, I can't say who's speaking. Elaine?
No,
Lita,
Okay, yes, let's hear what you have to say.
I think that Fred is right. It is difficult really to put a Walmart anywhere because of the way they treat the people who work for them. For a very long time, I do not shop at Walmart because of that reason.
Yes, we do hear those stories of many protests and they don't treat people right. Are there any other comments online?
yeah, we also thought about the idea that for every tree that's taken down, 20 have to be replaced.
Okay, did everyone hear that? Every one tree you take down, you put up 20 more.
Yeah, the problem solver in me says first you want to see if there's a way to have your cake and eat it too. And
Yes.
that is to see if they can move the store, build around the trees some way, put the parking lot on the other side or whatever it might be to see if it's possible to do it both ways.
Comments from the audience? Yes.
I'm representing Elka and Dorcas. They asked me to speak for them. So we put our thoughts together. First, my idea is there's no such thing as economic growth by creating a center for retail trade. It doesn't add to the growth. People in the area have so much to spend. Now, it's going to be a little cheaper to spend at Walmart, but the wages that are earned by the people working there will be lower than what they earn elsewhere. And as Wayne said, it will destroy the local economy. So there's gains and there are losses. I would say it's a question of whether it's overall, in an ethical sense, a gain or a loss. If you lose your downtown, that's a pretty serious loss. That's a center of socializing to begin with, not to mention local businesses. Then we should compare old growth trees, a bunch of them, to a corporation that in a few years may be out of favor and may disappear. The trees are not going to be replaced very quickly, even if you make them plant other trees. I would say find another site where you don't have an environmental impact. And I think my group agrees, I hope. They're shaking their heads. Okay, good, I did. I represented them fairly. Thank you.
We've got some, just one moment. Please come up, join us. And I'm so sorry, what is your name? David. David, come on up. Yes, there you go.
I'm representing a few of the people in the back there where we all agreed. First of all, you would never have Walmart asking the Ethical Humanist Society whether they should. We were also comparing it to the Amazon wanting to open in Queens. It wasn't about trees there, but Amazon was going to build a big distribution center in Queens, and the local community and some of the political leaders fought against it, and they gave up finally, fortunately. But in this case, I agree with everything said. Those are bad jobs. Superstore is going to take over so many things of the community. And I think I have a question, though, corporate speak. We need economic growth. That's something they'll say anywhere. We're bringing growth. We're bringing growth. Do they really need growth? And if they need growth, are there other ways to satisfy it? What does that mean? Why do people need growth? There's been a lot written by Daniel Quinn and other people, the myth of growth as a necessity for humans to be happy. Let us be who we are. That's a fundamental BS that corporations and maybe some other people use to justify ignoring what's really going on in the community. All right, that's our input.
Please, we have another comment. Come on up. And please make sure you introduce yourself.
Okay. Well, hi everyone. I'm the for those who don't know me, I'm the live stream tech, normally behind the scenes. But while everyone was talking, we were having our own conversation. One thing I brought up was ignoring the ecological issues, because at least from my perspective, as long as you're taking down, if you're taking down 20 trees and you plant however many you need to replace them, it all evens out. But one thing no one's mentioned is in this community that we were talking about, the trees that are being removed are part of the identity of the community. So it's the smaller scale, of course, but it's the equivalent of taking down the Statue of Liberty in New York City. You're removing the identity of that town and replacing it with a superstore that in reality may or may not be needed. We don't know enough about the situation or what was given to us. But at the end of the day, you're removing what makes that community that community. And is that worth it?
Very nice. Did you mention the Statue of Liberty?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's the
okay.
equivalent of removing the Statue of Liberty.
Right. Can you envision New York without the Statue of Liberty? Woo. Well, we have another comment from our certified arborist. Am I categorizing it?
Yeah, I'm an urban forestry educator,
Oh,
so I know a little bit about this stuff, and I deal with it on a daily basis, typically. One thing that our little group here came up with and wanted me to speak about was, yeah, it's nice to perhaps replace the trees that are going to be removed by this project somewhere else. But let me tell you something about old growth trees and old trees just in general. They provide irreplaceable environmental benefits because of their age, because of the ecosystem that basically they created around themselves. And it's not so simple as to just, oh, for every tree, we just plant 20 new young trees, because these old trees took, some of them, hundreds of years to get old and get to the size and to provide the benefits, the clean air, the cleaning of the water, you know, all the, I don't need to go into detail about that, but it's not like replacing a utility unit, like, for instance, oh, if your air conditioner breaks down, we just replace it. Yes, that's the way mechanical things work, but not in nature and in the real world. It takes hundreds or even thousands of years to create that ecosystem. And to think that you could just tear it out and put a new one in somewhere else that would provide the same benefits is not reality. So, plus the economic, you know, these environmental benefits have a dollar value also. So you're going to be trading off for maybe 100 years or more those economic benefits that the forest provides. So I think I would not be in favor of this project, not only for the environmental destruction that it will have, but for the societal destruction that we know Walmart brings to a community. And I can say that freely here, being here among friends in the Ethical Humanist Society, we all know what those problems are, so.
Great. David, please join us.
Just for the point of giving, as they often said in the Middle Ages, the devil's advocate. I mean, it's so easy for us to take this position. So let me just just raise a few questions on this issue. For example, there is tremendous shortage of housing on Long Island. We complain about that. We're very concerned about that. Well, I mean, if you're going to provide housing, you also have to be able to provide the jobs for people. I don't know that the old growth trees provide any jobs for the people. So there's also, of course, the old growth trees don't pay taxes, right? And we all pay taxes in the community. If you take land out of the tax base, it just means that everybody else pays more, right? So there's a question of, well, how are we going to pay for? I mean, Vinny talks about the long-term ecological benefits, and as we know, John Maynard Keynes famous for saying, in the long run, people are dead. In the short run, one has to pay taxes and someone has to be responsible. So what is the business opportunities? Now, I specifically had to deal with that problem in Syosset because there was a plan to have a big development of a mall where the Cerro factory used to be, and it was also going to have a lot of housing. Well, the school district didn't want the housing because it would increase the number of students, and the community didn't like the idea of the big development near them, so they were able to defeat it. And what did we get in replace? You know what's there now? A gigantic Amazon distribution center, which is, of course, a great benefit for those people who want to get cheap goods. And you can say some things about the quality of work that's provided. It certainly provides a lot of jobs. It pays taxes. Of course, we can question the nature of those jobs. And then, of course, it provides goods very quickly to everyone because the distribution center is right nearby there. Right? So the question, I guess, as part of the question is, it's nice to say we don't want economic growth. I understand that issue. Right? Of course, it's good for us to say because we are all either fairly well off. We're not suffering from lack of income, lack of jobs, lack of adequate social services. But those are real problems that have to be provided. Either that or we can kick the people out. Of course, when we send them back to Mexico, we don't have that problem. But we may not get cheap food in the local diners. So just a few thoughts to think about in the context.
Wow, wow, wow. You know, we've got this Walmart situation, but I'm dealing with one in my community now in Roosevelt, where the government has decided to update certain parks. And so back in March, the beginning of March, the government decided to update a particular park. It took over a half block. The park is the size of a half a block. And they devastated. They knocked down every single tree in that park. I know for a fact that some of the trees were 40, 50, 60 years old. I took pictures. I took it to some experts, and they're like, there was nothing wrong with the trees. It is now what, December 21st, 22nd? The place is still a construction site. Nothing has been done, and no one addresses me. So I'm doing my own little fight on that, but I'll probably update you next year to see what we're going to do about it. But it's a big embarrassment to the folks that are in charge, and it's disrespect of the community. But let's talk about what Mr. Walmart did along with his team. So after a significant local protests, media coverage, and public outcry, Walmart made a controversial decision. The company agreed to preserve the oak grove by changing the store's design to minimize the amount of trees that they were going to take down. They opted to build a smaller store and altered the layout to preserve the majority of the trees that were there. Walmart also agreed to plant hundreds of new trees in the surrounding areas to compensate for the ones that they did take down. This outcome was seen as a victory to community activists who celebrated the preservation of the grove. But Walmart still faced criticism for being complicit in the original tree removal plan. While the company did eventually preserve the grove, the case highlighted the ethical tension between large-scale retail development and environmental conservation, and the importance of finding a compromise when we are talking about doing something like that. So there were a number of you who said, we need to find a compromise, what do we do? And I guess it worked out. So now that was mid-2005. You certainly can take a look and see where they are now. And that was the Supercenter in Forest Grove, Oregon. Let's take a look at another one. Are you ready for another one? Yeah, of course you can handle this. This is the Ethical Humanist Society. All right. So in 2017, during Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, they faced a catastrophic power outage that left many hospitals and healthcare facilities in a dire situation. Many hospitals relied on limited generator power to sustain critical life support systems. And the life support systems included ventilators, dialysis machines, neonatal incubators. With the resources stretched thin, medical staff had to make rapid, high-stakes decisions to allocate limited power to patients. But which patients were to live and which patients were to not be saved? So one nurse, she gave her account of what was going on at the time. So this is Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. When Hurricane Maria struck the Puerto Rico, I was a nurse at a hospital in San Juan. We had prepared as much as we could, but no amount of preparation could shield us from what was to come. The night the hurricane came, the landfall, the night that the hurricane had made landfall, the power went out almost immediately. Our generators kicked in, but we knew its capacity was limited. In our ICU, patients depended on ventilators, machines that were keeping them alive. As the days dragged on, our generator began to falter, and the fuel supply dwindled. The grim reality settled in. We would not have enough power to sustain all critical functions, and decisions had to be made. Our team faced the impossible. Should we prioritize patients with the highest chance of survival, hoping that they would recover with minimal intervention? Or should we consider the youngest patients? Or should we consider those families who depended on them? Or should we simply follow a first come, first serve approach? We had a mother who pleaded for her baby. It was a premature baby in an incubator. There was an elderly man in another room who was struggling to breathe on a ventilator. Both needed power, but we couldn't save both. So now I'm going to present to you, what would you do? And I'm talking about her being the nurse, being the hospital system. How would you decide who receives power and who doesn't? Would you prioritize those with the best survival chances? Or would you say those who arrive first in the hospital, take care of them? Or those who have families relying on them? How would you bear the weight of such a decision? So this is going to be a little bit different. I mean, I'd just like to get feedback from you as we go, because I'm looking at our time, and anybody who is on Zoom. How do we prioritize who should be saved and who we do not save? Any comment on here? Yes, Lorraine.
What jumped into my mind right away, and I am not at all a medical professional, not even close, but is triage. I mean, isn't in any desperate situation, they set up a triage, and I'm thinking of battlefields and whatnot, or 9/11. I mean, all those situations where you don't have any time to think, really. And how are those decisions made? I don't really know, but I'm sure there's some medical criteria for determining who gets care first, because you can't do everybody at the same time, especially if you have limited resources. So,
you want to talk about what is triage?
oh, well, that's a good question. Triage, I believe, is where you assess the medical necessity. Is that, I see people nodding their heads. That's what I've always understood, is that they triage in ERs, for instance. They quickly assess medical necessity, and then they go to the person first who needs the most immediate care. I don't know if that particularly would work. I mean, my motherly thing is save the baby.
Okay, we have a Zoom comment, and who? Elaine. Elaine?
Mika.
Mika.
Oh, Mika.
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 It's Mika.
Okay, go, please, speak.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, I used to be a pediatrician, and I would always give the preference to the children with a good perspective of a good outcome. And then, the older people who have the very poor, perspective of maintaining life, I mean, I will get, them the last.
Ooh,
Babies first, old people last.
okay. I don't know what to say. All right. Yes, please.
I can't figure out who should get treatment first based on the nurse that Alicia mentioned. All the considerations, who's a wage earner, who's got the most chance of surviving. But I have another aspect to consider. Who designed this hospital to have minimal backup power? That's the problem in this situation to me. And that's the ethical question. How much money do you spend for contingency for this kind of thing happening in a zone which is prone to hurricanes?
I do want to tell you this particular case, and this was back in 2017. It was so horrific, and the decisions that had to be made, it impacted all over the world, especially here in the United States, and it also impacted Long Island. And we can talk about that after I share the resolve. But first, I want to get one more comment. Please come up.
Yeah, in response to Rick, that was a poor hospital that had, I think it had very little to do with who designed it. They didn't have any money to begin with. And exactly what Lorraine said, you know, to triage as an old ICU nurse, we triaged all the time when we had to float to the ER to see who needed to be seen first, which was an emergency and which was really not an emergency, or somebody who was in pain but who could wait. Yeah, I agree that I would say I would agree with Mika, those people that had a chance of survival, young people, would be my choice, and old people hopefully would volunteer to say, you know, I've had a long life, let this baby get my oxygen.
Well, I don't know if this is an ethical humanist answer, but if it was me, I want to live, I want to live. Okay, so here is the actual resolve. Ultimately, we, the hospital, turned to triage protocols, basing our decisions on one guiding principle: maximizing the number of lives saved. So patients with the highest chance of survival were given priority. For others, we transitioned them to palliative care, providing comfort in their final hours. According to this nurse, it was an agonizing process, and she said, I will never forget the mother who held her baby close as we explained why we couldn't save her child, or the elderly man's whispered thank you as we redirected our resources to someplace else. So there was an elderly man who said, go, save the others. In the aftermath, we question ourselves endlessly. Could we have done more? Should we have made different choices? These doubts linger, but so does the certainty that we did the best we could with what we had. So Hurricane Maria revealed both the resilience of the human spirit and the vulnerabilities of healthcare systems everywhere. It's a stark reminder of the need for better disaster preparedness and stronger support systems, so no one ever has to face these kind of decisions. Here on Long Island, I know that they've really been working on backup systems, and even in the nursing facility that my father is in, there is a backup system that is there, a backup generator. But there's so much more we can talk about this, and especially what else is happening on Long Island, or what we need to fight for on Long Island. So now I'm going to turn the stage back over to Lorraine. Come on down.